The grand hall of the Galactic conclave sparkled under the light of 3 artificial suns. Tall windows showed the stars and the beautiful rings of Centauri Prime. Hundreds of alien delegates sat in curved rows, each species in their own section. The air smelled of strange flowers and important decisions. Admiral Elena Chen walked slowly down the center aisle. Her blue uniform stood out among the colorful robes of the alien representatives. Her steps were sure and strong. 300 years ago, humans had joined this gathering of space-traveling species. Today they would leave it. "The human walks with unusual purpose," whispered Voxtal, a tall Voldry with pale blue skin and large eyes that could see emotions. The Voldry were telepaths who found humans too loud in their thoughts. "Perhaps they will finally accept their proper place," replied Karoth Mas, a Karathi diplomat whose reptilian face showed no emotion. The Karathi believed in perfect order and found humans too unpredictable. Neither alien knew what was about to happen. Admiral Chen reached the speaking platform. She was 52 years old with streaks of gray in her black hair and scars on her hands from battles on frontier worlds. She had fought for human interests in this chamber for 15 years. Today would be her last speech. "Honorable delegates of the Galactic Conclave," she began, her voice clear and strong. "For 3 centuries, humanity has sat at this table. We have offered our ideas, our energy, and our friendship." The oldest delegate, an Elzari named Thoran who had lived for over 500 years, shifted uncomfortably. The Elzari considered themselves the wisest race in the galaxy and found humans too ambitious, too eager to change things. "In those 300 years," Chen continued, "humans have developed 15 major improvements to quantum navigation. Our doctors have created cures for diseases that threatened multiple species. Our colonies have served as trading posts and cultural centers at the edges of known space." She paused, looking around the chamber. "And yet, in those same 300 years, how many human proposals have been approved by this body? 7 out of thousands." Murmurs spread through the chamber like ripples in water. "How many human captains have been allowed to command joint species missions? None. How many human worlds have been granted full trading rights? Only 3, while even the youngest Mazari have 12. The Mazari delegates with their forearms and glowing skin looked down in shame. They had often supported human causes, but rarely with enough votes to matter. The United Nations of Earth and Colonies has reached a unanimous decision. Chen's voice became stronger. "As of today, humanity withdraws from the Galactic Conclave." The chamber erupted in noise. Some delegates stood up, others called for order. The Voldry High Mind, a collective consciousness of their 12 highest leaders, sent a mental wave of surprise that even non-telepaths could feel. "This is unprecedented," shouted Kernvoss of the Karathi. "No species has ever withdrawn." Chen remained calm. Perhaps that is because no species has ever been so consistently ignored. She placed a small crystal cube on the platform. It glowed with red light, containing the formal withdrawal notice with all required legal codes and signatures. "Humanity will return to its space. Our borders will be closed to conclave ships in 30 standard days. We will maintain minimal diplomatic channels for emergency communication only." The ancient Elzari leader Thoran finally spoke, his voice like rustling leaves. "You make a grave mistake, human. Your species is young and hot-headed. Without the guidance of the conclave, you will surely destroy yourselves within a century." Chen smiled for the first time. "We survived thousands of years before we met any of you. I think we'll manage." She turned to leave, but stopped when the Volgri High Mind sent another message, this one broadcast so all could hear. "Perhaps in another millennium you'll have evolved enough to rejoin us." Chen did not turn back. "Perhaps in less time than that you'll wish we had stayed." As she walked out, the chamber remained silent. Many delegates felt secret relief. The humans had always been trouble, questioning traditions, proposing risky, new technologies, exploring dangerous regions of space. The conclave could return to its careful, measured progress without human disruption. Within a week, human ships began departing from diplomatic stations across 27 star systems. The embassy on Ker Prime, the Karathi homeworld, was the first to close. The Human Cultural Center on Vuldri 3, famous for its music and art exhibits, shut its doors after a final concert attended by thousands of curious Vuldri who would now have no more chances to experience human creativity. The largest withdrawal happened at the Joint Research Facility orbiting the gas giant Elzaris, where human scientists had worked for decades on space-time problems. The Elzari directors watched in shock as humans packed up equipment that they suddenly realized no one else fully understood. "You cannot take the phase variance detector," insisted Director Laurel. "It was built with conclave funding." Dr. Sophia Williams, the human lead researcher, pointed to the detector's specs. "Check Section 12B of the original agreement. Any technology primarily developed by a member species remains their property if they withdraw. We developed 89% of this device." Similar scenes played out across conclave space. Only now did the other species begin to realize how much they had come to depend on human innovation, human adaptability, and human courage. On the border of what was now closed human space, Captain Jarrow of the Mizari Defense Force met his old friend Captain Lee of Earth Fleet for one last drink. "Is this really necessary, my friend?" asked Jarrow, his 4 hands wrapped around his drinking vessel. "Your people are angry now, but surely with time." Lee shook her head. "This isn't about anger, Jarrow, it's about respect. The Conclave has made it clear they want our help but not our ideas. They want our strength but fear our spirit. We tried for 300 years to be good partners. And what will you do now, alone in your corner of the galaxy?" Lee smiled. "What humans have always done. Explore, build, dream, and maybe solve some problems that the Conclave is too cautious to tackle." As the human ships disappeared into the darkness of space, few in the Conclave worried. The galaxy was vast and ancient. What difference could the absence of one young, impulsive species make? They would learn the answer sooner than anyone expected. 50 years passed since humanity left the Galactic Conclave. The grand meeting chambers on Centauri Prime now seemed too large, too quiet. Many seats remained empty during important votes. The pace of new discoveries slowed to a crawl. Elder Thoran of the Elzari stared at the latest reports with his ancient eyes. His green skin had faded to a pale mint with age. For centuries, he had led his people with wisdom and patience. Now, for the first time, he felt afraid. "Show me the Void Rift images again," he commanded. The young Elzari scientist tapped on her control panel. Above the table appeared a 3-dimensional map of the galaxy's edge. Dark tiers in space hung like rips in fabric. The largest one pulsed with strange energy. "The Mira colony was here," said the scientist, pointing to empty space near the largest rift. 4 million Elzari, gone in a single day. Thoran closed his eyes briefly in mourning. The Elzari were long-lived but had few children. The loss of so many was a wound that would take generations to heal. "The humans warned us about these rifts," said Karoth Mas, now the senior Karathi representative. His scales had dulled with age, but his mind remained sharp. "They called them void rifts in their reports. They requested permission to study them more closely, and we denied them," finished Thoran. "We said their methods were too risky." The Karathi nodded. "Our mathematical models have been updated. The rifts are multiplying. This one appeared last week." He pointed to a small tear near a busy trade route. "And this one 3 days ago." Another tier, closer to the core worlds. "How long do we have?" asked Thoran. "At the current rate of expansion? 300 years before most habitable worlds are consumed, perhaps less." The meeting room fell silent. 300 years was nothing to the long-lived Elzari. Even the shorter-lived species in the Conclave had expected their civilizations to last for thousands of years more. "What of the humans?" asked Voxlam, who had replaced Voxtal as the Vuldri representative. "Have our observers reported anything useful?" The intelligence officer, a small Mizari named Kertos, stepped forward. His normally glowing skin was dim with worry. "Humans have closed their borders completely. Our observation post can see little, but what we have seen is concerning. He activated his own display. These images were taken from our farthest monitoring station. The images showed massive structures being built in human space stations larger than cities, strange devices that seemed to bend light around them, fleets of ships unlike any the Conclave had seen before. "What are they building?" asked Thoron. "We don't know, but their activity increased dramatically after the first void rift appeared 20 years ago." Kurtos showed another image. "This is what truly worries us." The image showed a human ship flying directly into a small void rift, disappearing into the darkness. "They're entering the rifts?" Voxlam gasped, his telepathic shock touching everyone in the room. "That's suicide." "Apparently not," said Kurtos. "We have recorded 17 ships entering rifts. 15 have returned." The leaders looked at each other in disbelief. The Conclave had lost hundreds of ships that accidentally came too close to the rifts. The idea of deliberately entering one was unthinkable. "There's more," continued Kurtos. "The rifts in human territory are stable. They're not growing." This news silenced the room completely. Thoron's hand trembled slightly as he reached for his drinking cup. "They've found a way to control the rifts," said Karoth Mas finally. "While we've been debating and observing, they've been solving the problem." "We need their help," admitted Thoron. The words tasted bitter in his mouth. For 500 years, he had guided his people with certainty in the Elzari's superior wisdom. Now he had to admit that the young, impulsive humans might have saved themselves while the older races faced extinction. "Who will go to them?" asked Voxlam. "Who among us can put aside enough pride to beg for help?" Karoth Mas stood slowly. "The Karathi have always been practical. We value survival over pride. I will lead a delegation to Earth." "They may refuse to see you," warned Kurtos. "No diplomatic messages have been answered for decades." "Then we will wait at their border until they do," replied Karoth Mas. "We have no choice." 3 weeks later, the largest diplomatic vessel ever built by the Karathi approached the border of human space. The massive ship, named Humble Truth, carried representatives from all major conclave species. They brought gifts, scientific data, and carefully prepared speeches. They sent messages ahead explaining their mission. No response came. As they reached the official boundary marker, their sensors detected movement. From the darkness of space emerged 5 human ships unlike any they had seen before. The vessels were sleek and black, seeming to absorb light rather than reflect it. Strange energy patterns rippled across their hulls, reminiscent of the void. "Rifts themselves. Conclave vessel," came a transmission. "You have reached the border of human space. State your purpose." Karoth Mas stepped forward to the communication panel. He had rehearsed this moment for weeks. "I am Grand Minister Karoth Mas of the Karathi, speaking on behalf of the Galactic Conclave. We come seeking help against the void rifts that threaten all our worlds." A long silence followed. The Conclave delegation waited nervously. Finally, the human voice returned. "Remain in position. A representative will board your vessel for preliminary discussions." Relief swept through the ship. At least, the humans would talk to them. An hour later, a small craft detached from one of the human ships and approached. When it docked with the Humble Truth, only a single human emerged. She wore a simple black uniform with no visible rank or insignia. Her dark skin and confident stride reminded some of the older delegates of Admiral Chen from 50 years ago. "I'm Captain Maya Rodriguez," she said. "I understand you wish to speak with the human government about the void rifts." "Yes," said Karoth Mas. "The situation is desperate. Already 1 colony world has been lost. Our models predict—" Rodriguez raised her hand, stopping him. "If you wish to discuss this matter further, you must come to Earth. Director General Okafor will hear your request personally." "Earth?" repeated Voxlam. "No non-human has been allowed on Earth since your withdrawal." Rodriguez's face showed no emotion. "These are exceptional circumstances. 1 ship may proceed with a maximum of 12 representatives. You will be escorted at all times." As she turned to leave, Thoron stepped forward. Will you help us? He asked directly. Can you help us? For the first time, Rodriguez showed a small smile. That depends on how much your pride is worth to you, Elder. Humans offered friendship as equals for 3 centuries and were treated as children. Now you come to us only when you need us. We have changed, insisted Thoron. We are ready to... Listen, we'll see, said Rodriguez. Your escort will arrive in 6 hours to take you to Earth. Be ready. As she left, the conclave representatives looked at each other with mixed feelings of hope and worry. They would finally see what humanity had become in their 50 years of isolation. And perhaps if the humans were generous, they would share the secret of controlling the deadly void rifts that threatened to consume the galaxy. What they would find on Earth would change their understanding of humanity forever. The human escort ship was nothing like the conclave delegates expected. From the outside, it looked like a predator, sleek, dark, and dangerous. Inside, it was surprisingly comfortable, with rooms designed to accommodate various alien body types. Grand. Minister Karothma studied the human crew with careful eyes. They moved with purpose and confidence. They spoke little but watched everything. Most striking was how they worked together without constant orders. Each seemed to know their task, and trusted others to do theirs. We'll reach Earth in 6 hours, Captain Rodriguez informed them. I suggest you rest. The Director General keeps a busy schedule. Thoron, the ancient Elzari elder, approached her before she could leave. Your ships, they have void energy, signatures. How is that possible? The void consumes everything it touches. Rodriguez paused. Not everything, as it turns out. Just those who fear it rather than understand it. She left them with that cryptic answer. The delegates exchanged worried glances. They've changed, whispered Voxlam of the Voldry. His telepathic abilities sensed something different about the humans. Their minds are focused, disciplined, not like before. 6 hours later, the ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel. Earth appeared in the viewing screens, a blue-green jewel wrapped in a web of light. Space stations and shipyards formed a protective sphere around the planet. Massive energy generators created shields visible even to the naked eye. But most impressive were the ships. Thousands of vessels moved in perfect coordination. Some were tiny, barely large enough for a single person. Others were enormous, the size of small moons. By the first light, muttered one of the Mizari delegates. They've built more ships than the entire conclave fleet. Captain Rodriguez returned. We've been cleared to land at New Beijing Spaceport. Follow all instructions precisely. Earth security is thorough. The landing was smooth and efficient. When they disembarked, the delegates found themselves in a vast terminal made of gleaming metal and self-illuminating crystal. The ceiling displayed a real-time map of human territory, showing thousands of stars and the status of each world. A woman waited for them at the end of the arrival hall. She wore a simple white suit with no decorations or rank insignia. Her dark skin contrasted with her close-cropped silver hair. She stood straight despite her apparent age. I am Director General Maya Okafor, she said without preamble. Welcome to Earth. Karothma stepped forward and bowed low, a rare gesture for a Karathi. Director General, we thank you for receiving us. I know who you all are, she interrupted. Your files were sent ahead. Follow me. She turned and walked, briskly, forcing the delegates to hurry after her. They passed through corridors filled with humans working at stations displaying information the aliens couldn't begin to understand. Your society seems highly organized, commented Thoron, trying to establish some rapport. Okafor didn't slow her pace. We had to be. When the conclave rejected us, we knew we'd face challenges alone. Efficiency became essential, not optional. She led them into a massive circular chamber. It was unlike any government facility they had seen before. Thousands of screens showed projects in progress across human space. Holographic models displayed planets, ships, and space-time anomalies. People moved between stations, conversations happening in dozens of languages. This is central coordination, explained Okafor. From here, we monitor all major human activities across our territory. Where is your government council? Asked Voxlam, looking confused. Where do your leaders meet? Okafor gestured around. Them. You're looking at it. We abandoned traditional governance 50 years ago. Too slow, too rigid. We organize around problems now, not politics. The best qualified lead each project. When the project ends, leadership shifts. The delegates struggled to understand. All their societies had strict hierarchies thousands of years old. Please sit. Okafor pointed to a circular table that rose from the floor at her command. When everyone was seated, she tapped the table's surface. A three-dimensional map of the galaxy appeared, showing the spreading void rifts in red. Void rifts are consuming your worlds, she stated matter-of-factly. You need our help. Karoth Mas swallowed his pride. Yes, we do need your help. A rift consumed an entire Elzari colony, added Thoran, his voice heavy with grief. 4 million souls lost. We know, said Okafor. Her voice softened slightly. We monitored the destruction. I'm sorry we couldn't reach them in time. In time? Repeated Voxlam. What do you mean? Instead of answering, Okafor expanded part of the map. It showed human territory where small void rifts glowed not red but blue. 50 years ago, when we left the conclave, we dedicated significant resources to studying the anomalies at the galaxy's edge, what you now call void rifts. We noticed patterns your scientists missed because they were too cautious to get close. Enough. She zoomed in further, showing a human research station positioned at the edge of a controlled rift. The rifts aren't natural phenomena. They're weapons, remnants of an ancient war fought long before any of our civilizations arose. They were designed to activate when certain power signatures reach a specific density across the galaxy. Our expansion triggered them, realized Karoth Mas. Precisely, nodded Okafor. When we understood what we were dealing with, we developed countermeasures. We can contain existing rifts and prevent new ones from forming in our space. Hope spread across the aliens' faces. Thoran leaned forward eagerly. Then you will share this technology with the Conclave. You will help us save our worlds? We will, said Okafor, but not as members of your Conclave, not under your rules and restrictions. She tapped the table again. A document appeared. A formal agreement with the seal of the Human Directorate. We propose a new arrangement. Earth will lead a Galactic Defense Council with emergency powers that supersede Conclave protocols until the Void Crisis is contained. Aliens stared in shock. Karoth Mas found his voice first. You want to take control of the Conclave, after abandoning it? We didn't abandon the galaxy, corrected Okafor sharply. We were pushed aside while trying to save it. Now the threat we warned about has arrived and suddenly you want our help, but still on your terms? She stood, her voice growing stronger. Those terms failed. They failed your people, and they failed the galaxy. We offer a new path forward. One that might actually work. The Conclave will never agree to this, said Thoran softly. 3,000 years of tradition will mean nothing if your worlds are consumed by the void, finished Okafor. Choose, Elder, tradition or survival. Before Thoran could answer, an alarm sounded. One of the human operators called out to Okafor, Director General, Void Rift expanding in the Proxima sector, Karathi colony world in danger. Okafor turned to the delegates. It seems the choice has found you sooner than expected. Will you accept our help, on our terms? Karoth Mas stood, his reptilian features set in determination. I accept on behalf of the Karathi. Save my people, and I will personally advocate for your defense council. Okafor nodded and immediately began giving orders. On the main screen, a fleet of human ships moved toward the endangered Karathi world. Commander Joe, deploy Void Containment Team Alpha. Full emergency protocol. As the delegates watched in amazement, the humans sprang into action with practiced precision. Within minutes, a response was underway. faster than the conclave could have even finished an emergency meeting. Voxlam turned to Thoron. I think, Elder, that we have no choice. The humans have what we need most right now. And what is that? Asked the ancient Elzari. The will to act quickly, the courage to face the unknown, and solutions rather than debates. As they watched, the human response unfold. The delegates began to understand just how much the galaxy had lost when humans left the table, and how much it might gain if they rejoined it on their own terms. The main viewing screen in central coordination showed the human fleet approaching the endangered Karathi colony. 12 specialized ships formed a circle around a growing void rift. The delegates watched with growing hope and curiosity. Containment. Vessels in position, reported Commander Jianzhou from the lead ship. His calm voice filled the room. Beginning void energy conversion now. The ships extended strange devices that looked like long metal fingers. Dark energy from the rift began flowing into these collectors, channeled and controlled. Impossible, whispered an Elzari scientist. Void energy cannot be contained. Our best minds determined this decades ago. Director General Okafor smiled, slightly. Your best minds were wrong. They studied the void from a safe distance. We studied it up close. On screen, the rift's expansion slowed, then stopped. Its edges began to shrink as the human ships drained its energy. Within an hour, what had been a growing tear in space was reduced to a small, stable point of darkness. Colony world secure, announced Commander Zhou. Rift contained and neutralized. No casualties reported. Relief swept through the Karathi delegates. Grand Minister Karoth Mas bowed deeply to Okafor. My people owe you a debt we cannot repay, he said. The Karathi formally support your proposed defense council. One by one, the other delegates added their support. Even Thoron, the ancient Elzari elder, eventually nodded his agreement. We must know, he said. How did you do it? How did humans solve what the combined scientific minds of the conclave could not? Okafor gestured to a young woman standing nearby. Dr. Amara Chen will explain. She leads our Void Research Division. The young woman stepped forward. With a shock, the delegates realized she must be related to Admiral Elena Chen, who had led humanity's withdrawal 50 years earlier. Admiral Chen was my grandmother, Dr. Chen confirmed, seeing their recognition. She always believed the void rifts were the greatest threat facing the galaxy. After we left the conclave, she dedicated her life to understanding them. Dr. Chen activated a holographic display showing the internal structure of a void rift. Scientists studied the rifts from a distance using remote sensors and mathematical models. We took a different approach. We sent probes directly into the rifts, then ships, then people. The delegates gasped. Voxlam's telepathic shock rippled through the room. You sent living beings into the void? He asked, horrified. How many died? In these experiments? Fewer than you might think, replied Dr. Chen calmly. We lost 7 researchers in the early days before we understood the nature of the void. Each sacrifice taught us something valuable. The matter-of-fact way she spoke of these losses disturbed the delegates, but they could not deny the results. What we discovered changed everything, she continued. The void isn't empty nothingness as your scientists believed. It's a different state of reality, one created artificially. She expanded the hologram, showing strange patterns within the darkness. These are code sequences, the remnants of an ancient weapon system created to destroy spacefaring civilizations that grew too quickly. When certain power signatures reach a specific density across the galaxy, the system activates, creating rifts that consume worlds. Who built such a terrible weapon? Asked Thoron. We don't know, admitted Dr. Chen. The civilization vanished millions of years ago, but they left their weapons behind, sleeping until triggered. Karoth Mas leaned forward. And how did you learn to control these weapons? By understanding them, said Dr. Chen simply. Once we realized the rifts were programmed devices, not natural phenomena, we could interact with them, reprogram them, even use their energy. She gestured to a small device on her wrist. This communicator is powered by converted void energy, So are our containment ships. We've learned to harvest the very force that threatened to destroy us. The delegates exchanged glances of amazement and discomfort. In 50 years, humans had completely transformed their understanding of the void, while the conclave had merely watched it grow. "We will share this technology with you," said Director General Okafor, "but only under the terms we've proposed. A joint defense council, led by Earth, with full access to all conclave research and resources. And what guarantees do we have? That humans won't use this position to dominate the galaxy?" asked an Elzari counselor. Okafor's expression hardened. "The same guarantee you had when you admitted us to the conclave 300 years ago. Our word. The difference is we kept our promises. We shared our discoveries. We fought on your frontier worlds. We defended your trade routes. And in return, you ignored our warnings and pushed us aside." Her words hung in the air. None of the delegates could deny their truth. "We need time to consult with our governments," said Thoron finally. "Of course," agreed Okafor. "But understand this, the void spreads quickly. Every day you debate, another world moves closer to destruction." As if to emphasize her point, an alert sounded from one of the monitoring stations. "New rift forming in the Elzari outer territories," called an operator. "Estimated 16 hours until it threatens inhabited worlds." Thoron's face showed genuine fear for the first time. "Can you contain this one as well?" "We can," said Okafor. "But we'll need permission to enter Elzari space. And we'll need it now, not after weeks of committee meetings." The elder closed his eyes briefly, then nodded. "You have my authority as High Elder. Save my people." Orders flew across central coordination. Within minutes, a human fleet was preparing to depart for Elzari space. The efficiency was startling to the delegates used to the slow, careful deliberations of the conclave. Commander Joe appeared on screen again. "Director General, we're ready for demonstration deployment." Okafor turned to the delegates. "Would any of you like to join Commander Joe's mission? See our methods firsthand?" After a moment of hesitation, Kareth Mas stepped forward. "I will go. My people should witness this." "I will join as well," said Voxlam of the Vuldri. "My telepathic abilities may be useful." "Excellent," said Okafor. "Your transport leaves in 30 minutes. As preparations were made, Dr. Chen approached Thoron, who still studied the holographic displays of void energy. "You're troubled, Elder," she observed. "I am," he admitted. "For 500 years, I believed the Elzari approach was best. Careful observation, thorough analysis, cautious action. Now I see that while we watched and waited, humans dove into danger and found answers." "Different approaches have different strengths," said Dr. Chen. "Humans are curious and brave, sometimes foolishly so. But the Elzari patience and depth of thought could help us refine our methods. Perhaps there is wisdom in both approaches." Thoron looked at her with surprise. "You sound unlike your grandmother." Admiral Chen was less diplomatic. Dr. Chen smiled. "Grandmother believed humanity needed to find its own path, but she always hoped we would rejoin the galactic community someday. As equals, not subordinates." As Kareth Mas and Voxlam prepared to depart with the human fleet, the other delegates continued reviewing the proposed Defense Council agreement. The terms were firm but fair. Humans would lead, but all species would have representation. Emergency powers would last only until the void crisis ended. "The choice is simple," Okafor told them as they deliberated. "Accept our leadership now, or watch your worlds vanish one by one until you have no choice left at all." It was not an easy decision for civilizations used to thousands of years of tradition. But as they watched the humans work, quickly, efficiently, fearlessly, they began to understand what the galaxy had lost when humanity left the table, and what it might gain if they returned. 3 months passed since the conclave delegation visited Earth. In that short time, the galaxy changed more than it had in the previous 1,000 years. The Galactic Defense Council, led by humans but including representatives from all major species, now operated from a massive space station orbiting Earth. Here, The best minds from across the stars worked together with an urgency unknown in conclave history. Karoth Mas stood at a viewing window, watching ships come and go. After witnessing human void containment technology firsthand, he had become one of their strongest supporters. Now he served as the Karathi representative on the council. "Still amazed by it all?" asked Voxlam, joining him at the window. The Voldry telepath had also been transformed by his experience with the human fleet. His people, once distant and judgmental of human mental patterns, now worked closely with them. "Every day," admitted Karoth Mas. "In the conclave, we would still be debating the proper protocol for forming emergency committees." A human technician approached them. "Excuse me, representatives. The Director General has called an emergency meeting. They found something important." The council chamber was already full when they arrived. Director General Okafor stood beside Dr. Chen and Commander Zhou. Their faces showed a mixture of excitement and concern. "Thank you all for coming quickly," began Okafor. "Dr. Chen's team has made a breakthrough in tracing the origin of the void rifts." Dr. Chen activated a holographic display showing the galaxy. Red dots marked active void rifts across conclave space. Blue dots showed contained rifts in human territory. At the center of the galaxy glowed a strange yellow point. "We've detected an energy signature at the galactic core," explained Dr. Chen. "It matches the control frequencies we've observed in the void rifts. We believe this is the central control system, the heart of the ancient weapon." Excited murmurs filled the room. Thoran, who now represented the Elzari on the council, leaned forward with interest. "Can it be deactivated?" he asked. "We think so," replied Dr. Chen. "But reaching it won't be easy. The galactic core is extremely dangerous. Radiation, gravitational distortions, unstable stars. No conclave ship has ever ventured that deep," said a Mizari representative. "Our best designs couldn't survive those conditions." Commander Zhou stepped forward. "That's why we've developed this." He activated another display showing a sleek black ship unlike any they had seen before. The Void Runner. Built using what we've learned from the rifts themselves. The ship was beautiful and terrifying. Its hull seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Strange patterns flowed across its surface like living shadows. It incorporates void energy into its shields and drive systems, explained Zhou. It can survive conditions that would destroy conventional vessels. We believe it can reach the core. "Who will crew this ship?" asked Karoth Mas. "The mission sounds extremely dangerous." "I will lead the expedition," said Zhou. "We're assembling a joint team, humans and representatives from other species. We need diverse perspectives to understand what we find." Voxlam immediately volunteered. The Voldry telepathic abilities might help decipher the alien technology. To everyone's surprise, Elder Thoran also stood. "I would like to join as well. Few living beings have studied ancient technologies as long as I have." Within hours, a team was assembled. 12 crew members, 5 humans and 7 aliens, prepared for the most dangerous mission in galactic history. The Void Runner would launch in 3 days. As preparations continued, Karoth Mas visited Dr. Chen in her laboratory. She was examining a piece of void-touched material under complex scanning devices. "Doctor, there's something I don't understand," he said. "The void rifts have appeared throughout the galaxy, but they've never formed in human space since you developed your containment technology. How is that possible?" Dr. Chen looked up from her work. "We discovered something important about how the ancient weapon selects its targets. It was programmed to activate when a single civilization pattern becomes dominant across too much of the galaxy." "A civilization pattern?" "Yes. Ways of organizing society, building cities, generating power, patterns that repeat across star systems. The weapon was designed to prevent any one approach from dominating." Understanding dawned on Karoth Mas's reptilian face. "And the conclave?" "Exactly," nodded Dr. Chen. "By establishing uniform standards across thousands of worlds, the conclave created exactly the pattern the weapon was designed to destroy. You made yourselves the perfect target. But humans, We were forced to innovate outside your framework. Our worlds developed in different directions after we left the conclave. Some became technology hubs. Others focused on biological sciences. Each colony adapted to its own challenges rather than following a single model. And this diversity protected you, realized Karothmas. It did. The weapon doesn't target diverse systems, only homogeneous ones that spread too widely. This revelation was both simple and profound. The conclave had prided itself on bringing uniform civilization to the galaxy. Now they learned that very uniformity had nearly destroyed them. 3 days later, the Void Runner launched on its mission to the Galactic core. The entire Defense Council gathered to watch its departure. The strange ship glided away from Earth, its void-infused systems glowing with controlled power. "They'll reach the core in 2 weeks," said Director General Okafor. "Until then, we continue containing any new rifts that form." During those 2 weeks, human-led teams deployed across conclave space, teaching local crews how to operate containment technology. Karathi engineers worked alongside human technicians, adapting the technology to their ships. Voldry telepaths helped coordinate response teams. Elzari scientists examined contained rifts, adding their centuries of patience to human boldness. For the first time, the species of the galaxy worked together as true equals, each contributing their unique strengths. On the 15th day, a transmission came from the Void Runner. Commander Zhou's face appeared on screens across the station, his expression grim but determined. "We've reached the control system," he reported. "It's incredible. A machine the size of a small moon, built millions of years ago and still functioning perfectly." The video showed a massive structure floating in space near the galactic core. Strange lights pulsed across its surface. Parts of it seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once. "We've analyzed its programming," continued Zhou. "Thoran and Voxlam have been invaluable in deciphering the alien logic. We know how to stop it." "Can you destroy it?" asked Okafor. "We could," said Zhou. "But Dr. Chen had a better idea. We're going to reprogram it instead." The video showed Thoran and a human engineer working on an alien control panel. Their hands moved carefully among glowing symbols. The weapon was created to prevent uniform expansion, to preserve diversity in the galaxy, explained Zhou. "That's a goal worth keeping. But we're changing its methods. Instead of destroying through the void rifts, it will communicate and warn." 3 days later, the Void Runner returned to Earth. The crew emerged, tired but triumphant. The ancient weapon had been reprogrammed. The void rifts were closing across the galaxy, their destructive energy transformed into a new network of communication and monitoring. "This is just the beginning," said Director General Okafor at the celebration that followed. "Together we've overcome a threat that would have destroyed us separately. Imagine what else we might accomplish." As the representatives of a dozen species raised their glasses in toast, Karothmas noticed something remarkable. The humans weren't celebrating their triumph over other species. They were celebrating a shared victory, exactly what they had sought from the conclave centuries ago. The galaxy had finally learned to value its most unpredictable members, and humanity had proven they belonged at the table all along. 10 years passed since the reprogramming of the ancient weapon. The galaxy had changed in ways few could have imagined. Where once the conclave had enforced uniformity and caution, now diversity and innovation flourished. The Galactic Assembly, which had replaced both the conclave and the temporary Defense Council, gathered on Earth for its 10th anniversary. The Great Hall was unlike the old conclave chamber. Instead of raised platforms and strict hierarchies, representatives sat in a circular arrangement where all were equal. The walls displayed real-time information from across the galaxy, and translation systems allowed each species to speak in their native language. Elder Thoran, now one of the oldest living beings in known space, watched the representatives arrive. At over 560 years old, he had seen the galaxy transform twice in his lifetime, first when humans joined the conclave, and again when they returned to lead it through crisis. "Reflective today, Elder?" asked Karothmas, joining him by a large window overlooking Earth's blue oceans. "How could I not be?" replied Thoran. I remember when we celebrated the humans leaving the conclave. What fools we were. Karoth Maz nodded. We feared their unpredictability. We never considered it might be exactly what we needed. The chamber filled with representatives from over 50 species. Some were old allies from conclave days. Others were new members. Civilizations once deemed too primitive for admission that now brought fresh perspectives to galactic discussions. Fleet Commander Lin Chen, daughter of the now-retired Director General Okafor, stepped to the center of the war room. At 45, she carried herself with the same confidence her grandmother Admiral Elena Chen had shown when withdrawing from the conclave 60 years earlier. But where Elena's face had shown determination born of frustration, Lin's showed something different, hope. Representatives of the Galactic Assembly, she began. 10 years ago, we faced extinction. Today we celebrate not just survival, but a new beginning. Screens around the room showed images from across the galaxy. The ancient machine at the galactic core, now repurposed as a monitoring and communication system. The network of controlled, void channels that allowed instant travel between distant points. The joint research stations where scientists from dozens of species worked together. Humanity didn't save the galaxy because we're inherently superior, continued Chen. We saved it because we were forced to innovate outside the restrictive framework of the old conclave. Our strength came from our isolation and the necessity it created. She moved to a simple pedestal and placed her hand on a glowing surface. A holographic document appeared above it, the new Galactic Charter. Today we formally adopt the revised charter, which ensures that every civilization maintains independent development alongside collective progress. The Assembly will coordinate our shared efforts, but no single approach will ever again be imposed across all worlds. The room filled with approving murmurs. This new arrangement protected diversity, while encouraging cooperation, a balance never achieved under the old conclave. The most important provision, explained Chen, allows any member species to temporarily leave the table, to pursue independent development when needed. But all are bound to return and share their discoveries. No knowledge belongs to one species alone. Vox Lam, now the leader of the Voldry delegation, raised his hand. Commander Chen, you have led us admirably through these transitional years, yet today's agenda mentions your retirement. Is this true? Chen smiled. It is. Leadership should rotate among species and individuals. New perspectives keep us strong. Surprise rippled through the chamber. Under the old conclave, leaders often held positions for centuries. Chen had held power for just 10 years and was now voluntarily stepping down. Who will replace you? Asked a young Mizari representative. That's for the Assembly to decide, replied Chen. I've submitted several nominations, including representatives from the Karathi, Voldry, and Elzari. Any of them would serve admirably. More murmurs of approval filled the room. The idea that a human would nominate non-humans to replace her was revolutionary. Yet another example of the new thinking that had transformed galactic politics. After the formal session ended, representatives gathered in smaller groups to discuss specific projects. The old boundaries between species had blurred. Karathi engineers worked alongside human scientists. Voldry telepaths taught young Elzari how to develop their own latent mental abilities. Mizari artists collaborated with humans on new forms of expression. In a quiet corner, Elder Thoran sat with Dr. Amara Chen, who had led the mission to reprogram the ancient weapon. I've been meaning to ask you something, Doctor, said Thoran. Your grandfather withdrew humanity from the conclave. Your work brought us back together. How do you think she would feel about what has happened? Dr. Chen considered the question. Grandmother was angry when she left the conclave, but never at the idea of cooperation itself. She believed in humanity's potential to contribute. I think she would be satisfied to see that potential recognized at last. I wish I could apologize to her, said Thoran softly. I was among those who dismissed human ideas as too risky, too hasty. She wouldn't want an apology, replied Dr. Chen. Just this. Species working together as equals, each valued for their unique strengths. Later that evening, a celebration took place in the Earth orbital garden. Representatives from all species gathered among Earth plants and flowers, carefully selected to be safe for all biology types. Music from a dozen worlds played softly in the background. Fleet Commander Chen found herself speaking with Karoth Mas and Voxlam, who had become her close advisors over the years. "What will you do after retirement?" asked Karoth Mas. Chen smiled. "I'm joining an exploration mission to the Andromeda Galaxy. The new Void Channel network makes it possible for the first time." "Always pushing boundaries," said Voxlam with amusement. "Truly human." "Not just human anymore," corrected Chen, gesturing to the mixed crew roster on her datapad. "The mission includes members of 15 species. The Karathi chief engineer designed the new drive system. The Voldry navigation team developed the jump calculations. We've all changed," observed Karoth Mas. "Humans have become more patient and thoughtful. My people have learned to take necessary risks. The Voldry have opened their minds to new possibilities." "That's the greatest achievement of these 10 years, said Chen. "Not the technology or the political systems, but the change in how we see each other. No species is inherently superior or inferior. We each have gifts to offer." As the celebration continued, Elder Thoron stepped onto a small platform. Though ancient even by Elzari standards, his voice still carried strength. "Friends, colleagues, fellow travelers among the stars," he began. "I am the only one here who remembers the founding of the original conclave 3,000 years ago. I am also the only one who was present when humans left our table 60 years ago, and when they returned to save us a decade ago." The room grew quiet as all listened to this living connection to history. "The greatest wisdom I have learned in my long life came not from ancient texts or careful observation, but from watching humans act when faced with the impossible. They taught me that strength lies not in comfortable agreement, but in the creative tension of different approaches united by common purpose." He raised a glass in toast. "To the humans who left the table, forcing us to recognize what we had lost, and to the humans who returned, not to dominate but to teach us a better way forward. May we never forget their lesson." Every being in the room raised their glass in response. Among them, humans stood not as conquerors or saviors but as equals, one thread in the rich tapestry of galactic civilization. Their legacy was not dominance, but something far more powerful. They had taught the stars how to evolve together while celebrating their differences. The end.